My sick husband caught me with another man, but his calm reaction broke me completely. My marriage ended on a Tuesday afternoon in a coffee shop, but it began falling apart 3 years earlier when my husband David was diagnosed with early Parkinson's at 34. At first, his hand shook during coffee. 6 months later, he couldn't button his shirt, tie his shoes, or sign his name without the pen dragging across the page. Before that, David climbed on weekends and played guitar in bars. Then he needed my arm just to reach the bathroom. Our life became pills, therapy, bills, and alarms. Insurance denied half of what he needed, so I worked 2 jobs, fought claims at night, and came home to help him shower, eat, dress, and turn over when his body locked up. I tracked 15 pills a day and cut his food because his hands couldn't hold a fork. I loved him, but I stopped feeling like a wife. I felt like a nurse, driver, cleaner, and bill collector. He kept saying, "I'm not helpless yet," while I was breaking down beside him. Then I met Ryan at the hospital pharmacy. I was picking up David's medicine, and Ryan was trying to get insulin for his 8-year-old daughter. Insurance wanted more paperwork, and he looked as worn out as I felt. I said, "Let me guess, 3 forms and a miracle?" He laughed, and I laughed too. After that, we kept seeing each other in the same line. We talked about movies, books, and who we used to be before life became one long emergency. He asked what I missed, and no one had asked me that in years. One day, he asked if I wanted coffee after I picked up the medicine. I said no, then cried in my car because I wanted to say yes. The next week, I did. David was asleep after his lunch pills. I told myself it was just 1 coffee, and I'd be back before he woke up. That 1 coffee became lunch across town during David's nap. I started changing my shirt before I left. I started deleting simple texts because I knew they weren't simple anymore. When David asked why I seemed lighter, I said the new schedule was helping. Every lie felt small, but together they became a second life. The first time Ryan kissed me was in his car after lunch. He held my hand and asked if I was sure. I should have said no. Instead, I kissed him back because for the first time in years, someone wanted me without needing care from me. For 2 months, I lived that way. Mornings were showers, trimmers, doctor calls, and David saying sorry for being a burden. Afternoons were Ryan, coffee, warm food, and a version of me that could breathe. I hated myself, but I kept going back. The day David found out, I followed the same routine. I made his lunch, gave him his pills, helped him lie down, and waited until his eyes closed. I put on clean jeans, grabbed my purse, and left. Ryan was already at the coffee shop. We were holding hands when Ryan kissed my forehead. Then his face changed. He looked past me toward the window. I turned, and David was standing outside with one hand pressed against the glass to keep steady. His shirt was half tucked in. One shoe was loose. His hands were shaking hard. I stood so fast the chair scraped the floor. David didn't come inside. He looked at me, then at Ryan, then back at me. I ran out, but he was already turning away. Somehow, with shaking hands, he had dressed himself, called a ride, and followed me downtown because he knew something was wrong. I drove home with my hands locked on the wheel. I kept picturing him trying to tie his shoe alone. When I walked into the kitchen, David was sitting at the table. His pill organizer was open, and pills were scattered on the floor because he was shaking too badly to pick them up. I expected yelling. Part of me wanted it because anger would have been easier. I could have said I was tired. I could have said I felt alone. But David didn't yell. He looked at me with red eyes and said, "I understand." I froze in the doorway. He swallowed and said, "You deserve more than watching me disappear every day." That hurt worse than screaming. I started crying and said I was sorry over and over. He nodded like he was the one comforting me. Then he said, "I still love you. That's why I'm not going to make you stay." The next week, I packed 1 suitcase while David sat in the bedroom chair and watched. He didn't beg. He didn't call me names. He only asked if I had somewhere safe to go. I said yes, though I could barely speak. When I zipped the bag, he said, "You don't have to keep choosing my illness over your life." I put my key on the kitchen table, picked up my suitcase, and walked out.